Hi, anybody who's watching, and welcome to our third conversation in our series of midlife. What did we call it? Midlife can be your
Is
best chapter yet, right?
yeah.
Um, and as we said, this third conversation is about spirit because we broke it down to mind, body, spirit. Granted, this is a really, really big topic, but we'd like to touch upon it because everything is so interconnected. And I guess we should introduce ourselves in case you are watching us for the first time. So, hi, I'm Abby of Abby Keen Healing. I work with midlife women in my coaching healing program who wish to step into their next chapter with more meaning and purpose and depth and connection and come out of hiding and express themselves freely in their life. And Yvette, who are you?
Hey, how are you? Good to see you again. Um, I really am enjoying these three chats, and hopefully this is like three of many. I feel like the book can go on and on, but I want to introduce myself as a nurse practitioner, and my passion is women's health and helping women transform and transition, especially in midlife, because there are so many changes that are happening in our body. And I practice in a women's healthcare facility that really deals with the body. But this topic really speaks to me is because I do feel like wellness and getting into the next chapter is incorporating the mind, body, and the spirit, a wholeness together to make us a well-being. So I am here to talk about our hormones and how our body transitions in midlife and how important the spirit plays in that role. So thank you.
Yeah. You know what I love that you said? I love that you said make us well-being. And it's like I've never heard it said like that before, but it's like make us because we are beings. We are human beings, but well-beings. It's like well human beings so that we can be
Correct.
sort of the best that we can be kind of thing.
Yeah. And that's how I feel like the spirit in my mind, and I'm sure we're going to have a juicy conversation about it, as why it should be a part of healthcare.
Yeah. So yes, let's jump right in and let me pose the question to you.
Mm-hmm.
How do you see the role of well, this is a really big question, so I don't even know exactly how to ask it. But you started just now to talk about it, and can you please say more about how you see spirit? What is, if we divided it mind, body, spirit, what is spirit for you?
Yeah. Wow. Wow. Okay. So um, I think that we all have this, spirit is a very touchy conversation to have because everybody has a different belief system. But
Mm,
what we all are is connected consciousness, right? So we are all spiritual beings living this human existence. And I think we all agree with that, right? Or some of us
mhm.
agree, but the people who hopefully are listening to this agree that we are all spiritual beings living this human experience for just this moment in time. And where midlife brings us is it like brings us to this period of time to be more conscious. And I think how I play spirit in body, I've been thinking about this, is that I want to define the way in this aspect of spirit as consciousness, because I do
Mm,
think that they play hand in hand. How do we become conscious beings in this human existence? So there
yeah.
takes away the word of spirit, right? And how do we become conscious? And I think midlife gives us that opportunity, like we have been talking for the last two, is that pause, right? Give us that
Yeah.
mena pause. And when we pause, we become conscious. Voila.
Yeah.
How is that? So if it was that easy to become conscious, because I think we are all born with just different levels of consciousness, right? Um, And just from being a healthcare provider, like I know the developmental human being, we have this like pure consciousness without anything else coming into play. It's like what we're born with, these autonomic responses that we're born with as human beings,
Mm.
really that we're born with, right?
Yeah.
So until I think the age, don't quote me, there's probably scientific age, but I want to say scientific age of 2, right? The age of 2 and 3 is when the I of, human comes into this spiritual conscious being.
Mm.
That's why the terrible twos happen. Something shifts in the baby of being
Mm.
this little being into this like, oh, hi, my world is really important now. So then that's talking about when we're 2. So here we are, from our 40s, 50s, 60s, right? We are now living these 50 years of conscious beings. And how do we bring that into our body? And I do think there's a saying about 3 in 1, right? Like we are 3 in 1. We are the mind,
Mm.
the body, the spirit to equal one human being.
Mm.
And I think without the spirit, we're not whole. And that's how
Mhm.
healthcare to me is that I think that we are healthy if we are whole.
Yeah.
And how, and it might be what's missing in our healthcare society is this, you know, feeling of consciousness that we have the right to choose. That's like, how do we define consciousness? That's maybe how I'll ask you a question, is like, what is consciousness? I think conscious is being in the here and the now, in this moment in time, not in the past, not in the future. And in this conscious moment, we have a choice to be the best person that we can be. But in midlife, we're thrown all of these external experiences that affect our internal being. And
Yeah.
midlife are chemicals and our hormones, because hormones also are messengers. They're chemicals, but they are messengers in our body. They act as a messenger to every cell in our body to complete an action. What is their job? And a hormone is
Mm.
needed to be that messenger. So how does spirit come in to this midlife? Is that how can we balance these messengers, to live more of a peaceful, have a more peaceful terrain? I don't know if that makes sense. But how, yeah, I don't know if that even made sense to me. But I think that midlife and hormones, how does that play into being conscious? It gives us that opportunity to say, okay, these messengers aren't communicating, in the way that it was for the past
Mm.
25 years. So there's an opportunity now to redirect them to a way
Yeah.
to function in a more peaceful way that serves us. And allows us to be on this planet as human beings, feeling more graceful, with
Yeah.
grace. Yeah. So I know for you, spirit is, comes into, because what you do, with energy work, because I know that as a coach and using the energy in our body, to me, that's the spiritual aspect of healthcare, and in my experiences, I've learned how to be a Reiki master. And I really haven't used that, human touch, but even nursing, there is therapeutic touch. And the first nurses and
Mm.
Florence Nightingale and all of these nurses that were the archetypes of, my profession, how they healed
Yeah.
people was through therapeutic touch. So I feel like
Mm.
in healthcare, that touch and that bathing the ill and really putting your hands on people was part of the tool of healing. So how
Mm.
can we bring that back into play in our midlife of like, how can that touch, or how can we get in touch with that energy
Mm.
that maybe is our consciousness, to get our
Mm,
hormones back into alignment.
mm,
So that's just how I would love to bring spirit into helping women in midlife, is
mhm,
really being conscious that we are three in one: mind, body,
mm.
and spirit, and not to lose
Yeah,
sense of this consciousness. Choice,
yeah,
choice.
yeah,
So
yeah. And then what I'm hearing you say is like there's this big invitation in midlife, which is something that I feel very strongly too, because there's almost like we can be less attached to a lot of things in our life, and we can be more focused on our own spirit and
mhm.
spiritual evolution, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think what is the spiritual evolution is just to try to, we all have this dark and light inside of us, right? Like, and sometimes when our chemicals or messengers are not working, I don't want to say working to the best of their ability, or not functioning the
Mm,
way that they have been, or trained to those
yeah.
deep pathways of constant communication, of balance, right? Midlife, really, there is this highway change. Like, how are we going to
Mm,
change this highway of communication of the hormones? And I think midlife does give, we have to
mm,
be conscious of it, because it's going to continue to go down a I don't want to say decline, but it's going to go
mm,
down a different highway if we're aware of it or not, right? So I think that if we're
mm.
aware of it, and we're conscious of how we could um, be more control, or have more knowledge, or understand that we are in charge. I don't know if that makes sense. It's really a deep conversation
Mm.
to have, right? Like,
It really is. It's like,
hard to put into words. It's just really, I thought it's like, okay, mind, body, spirit, we are whole equals consciousness, but it's so much deeper than that. But I do
mm,
think that hormones have a lot to do with it, and midlife gives us an opportunity to become whole, and being conscious that we do have a choice to continue
yeah,
on that highway with more ease and grace.
yeah, 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 yeah. Thank you. I so agree that this is like we're probably, how do you say, biting off more than we can chew. And I know for myself, like I'm just noticing myself right at this very moment, and like I'm finding myself nervous, which is not what I am. Like even in front of the Zoom and the camera and whatnot, I get really caught up in like the excitement of the topic. But um, I think for me, this is like so dear to my heart, and yeah, I've been part of a spiritual practice since my very early 20s, and it's like how shall I say, it's like there's a part of me that doesn't want to talk about it because there's a fear of cheapening it if I
Mhm.
talk about it, because spirituality is something that we experience rather than like
Right.
know in our heads, if that makes sense. So but I realize that for the sake of this conversation, maybe there's a way of talking about it, you know, out of service, if that
Yeah.
makes sense.
Yeah. And knowing that it is a hard topic to even put words to, right?
Mm,
Because we are beings, right? And what's the definition of being? Is just
yeah,
existing, right? But I
yeah,
do think the part of being is to evolve, right? And that's where, for me, the spirituality comes into, is that how can we evolve to, I don't want to say next level, because I don't think that's what it is. We can call it the next chapter, because that's what we're talking about, right? So how can
mm,
we evolve to the next chapter feeling a little bit more being, without
yeah,
doing or naming, and just being,
yeah,
and
yeah,
feeling that feeling of being. And that's where I think the word consciousness comes into place for me, is that
mm,
how can we just be and be conscious of beings, and but really in this body and mind that is not having this great little journey at this moment for some, or not, but definitely sparks what's going on, makes us go inward a little bit. And I think, again,
Mm,
the whole reason why we are coming full circle about talking about this is because midlife is this opportunity to have these inquiries and dive inward to really say, where does spirit lie with me? How does that
mm,
spirit come into play with me in this life? I don't know, it's
mm.
hard, but at that note, I think I'm going to keep my mouth shut and turn it over to you and see, how do you help women come in touch with their spirit? Because I think that's what it is. We are all spiritual beings, but how do you help women get in touch or dive inward
Mm.
to see if they could tap in to that spirit within them?
So good. Now you're letting me struggle with this. With the topic. So, I'm probably going to repeat some of what you shared because I'm in agreement with a lot of it, that I think that every human in its essence is a spiritual being, and that in the depth of us, we long for connection with something higher. You can call it God, Gaia, love, spirit, guides, give it whatever name you want to give it. But there's there that we I think we long for the bigger picture, and feeling part of, like, what does this life mean? Why am I born into this confusing world and then I have to die? And what is death? And where do we go from here? And how does it all make sense? Because in a way it really doesn't make sense. And I feel like, in a way, all it takes for us is to step outside at night and look at the vast sky and the immensity of it all, and wonder, like, I remember even as a kid, like, where does the sky end and how much further does it go? And then what? And then what? And it kind of puts things in proportion. So as I said, I think we're all have a spiritual longing for connection with something that is bigger, that is higher. And there's a void inside without it. And if we are not led in the right direction, and hopefully find a practice that will help us cultivate this connection, then often we as humans, we try to fill this void with, in a way, like false idols, right? And I think that's where addictions come from: drugs, booze, sex, work, TV, obsessions with externals, with looks, with status, and any other kind of distraction. So we're trying to fill this need for meaning with external stuff, with things from the outside. And the thing is, it's never going to really work because it's never going to hit the mark. It's never going to really fill that deep, deep yearning inside. It's almost like putting a band-aid, I guess, on that void, right? Um, and so I really think that our world right now is in a spiritual crisis. And it's like, more than anything, we forgot who we are, right? We lost connection with a higher, with a bigger picture, and we forgot our connectedness to each other. I think you said something similar. I feel like the world is very split right now. There's so many extremes, and there's so much hatred. Me against you, them against us, and so many levels, and countries, and governments, and politics, and race. Um, and I really wonder if in the heart of it all, it's this lack of spiritual connection with the higher that just leaves us lost and confused.
And
Because
unhealthy.
and yeah, and I'm not even talking about the manifestation of it in the human body, but I think you said something similar, that I feel like as human beings, it's really our birthright to find this connection, and this connection brings us back home into ourselves
Yeah,
in a real way.
almost a
And yeah,
reconnection, right?
reconnection. Yeah. Like we lose our way so that we can come back and refine ourselves. And in my experience, I'm not an authority on this, but from my personal experience, this connection can only happen in the here and now. It's not a thought. You can't you can't think it. You can't read tons of book and keep it, as thoughts in your head. It's a practice, and it takes time, and it takes dedication, and it's something that needs to be experienced, not just thought about. And so let me think about this for a second. This is a tough topic. I feel like, so in my work, I talk a lot with women about meaning and purpose. I have women come and they feel like they're not on purpose. They haven't found their purpose. They're yearning for this thing that will give them this feeling of purpose inside. And so we tend to base purpose on like a direction in life, like, you know, if I only find the right job, or if I only let my creativity out, and if things will happen, somewhere over there. But I really think that purpose can be found in the subtleties of life. And if, like, for example, if you can keep a connection, if you have a practice and you can keep a connection to the here and now while even washing dishes, then it might hold as much meaning as if you manage to launch your creative endeavor. Because meaning is inside of us. And it is how we live, and the quality that we bring into everything that we do. And it's not somewhere there over the rainbow, and it's not the one day I will. It really can only exist here and now. So when we talk about midlife, first of all, I feel like this conversation is for everybody, not just necessarily the midlife woman, but also, as you said, the opportunity in midlife is huge, because I feel like our ambitions are different. We are less identified with youth and looks. Even the fact that to some extent we can feel invisible, though heartbreaking as it is and shocking to the system as it is, it's also a kind of a relief. Like, sort of like the pull is less external.
Mhm.
And we might have the impulse to focus on what is truly important, and and become more serious about our spiritual practice, because it's like we're already pulling back from the things that we thought were so important, and we're waking up to the fact that they might not be. And we see, hopefully we see, that time is passing and life is short, and it's okay for our priorities to change. And it's such a ripe time to up this connection, whatever it is, up your practice, and let go of all these attachments to things that really don't matter. All these judgments and all these limiting stories that we told ourselves, and how we want to prove to others, and how we want to be seen. It's like, can we let this go and come back to that place inside that feels so much more important and vital and real and in connection? Um, and what So when I work with women, I think one of the most, like, one of the discoveries that make me so happy is when they realize that this dream that they have, that if they can only get this going, then they'll feel happy and joyful in their life, or purposeful, have meaning, when they start to realize that it's actually within themselves and it's a relationship that is inside, that if you shift that, that's the lens that you can view your life. I feel like that is sort of the vital change.
Mm-hmm.
So I just want to end this with questions.
Mm-hmm.
I want you to ask yourself, who are you? Why are you here? What do you think this is all about? Um, what is death? And can you feel that place inside of yourself that wishes, that yearns, that maybe it's your soul, your spirit. I don't even know how to name it, but whatever it is, it's like it was birthed into this life to experience life, to grow and to like refine itself, right? And can you connect with that part of you? And I would also want to say to women, don't stop asking, because there's a whole world between the lines,
Mm-hmm.
right? It's a whole invisible world between the lines. And if we are indeed spiritual beings coming into this finite material world to experience, how do we make our way back home inside ourselves?
Mm.
So I
Powerful.
guess that's my little spiel.
Wow. 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 I think, yeah, it's all about questioning. It's all about curiosity. And I think from a wholeness standpoint, from a health
Mm,
standpoint, from a mind, body, spirit, 3-in-1 standpoint, it is all inside of us. And I really
yeah,
do believe we have everything we need inside of us, right? But we have to have that time and stillness to ask ourselves, what does our body need? What does my mind need? What do I need? And I think that's what makes you more conscious of spirit. When you can get still enough that you could tap into your own internal machine, whatever you want to call it, home, because this
yeah,
body is this home for our spirit now. That's what I believe, but some people aren't conscious enough to even know that there is something inside of our body that is even alive, you know?
yeah,
So it is a point in life, for midlife or any transformative period in my life, puberty, I think that in our life trajectory, right? How many years are we on this planet? What's the average age now? Who knows, right? It's could be 90s even, like it keeps on going
mm,
up and then it goes down, but people are living a lot longer than they have in the
true.
past.
Mm-hmm.
So we have this home in our body for a certain amount of time. How, and there's points in this trajectory that gives us the opportunity. And I think midlife is one of them because, as
Mm,
women, and that's what my expertise is that, we are no longer able to be a mother and, we don't have to be nurturing to somebody else. We have created this life now that is able to, live on their own without us nurturing them, from our
yeah,
milk, from our whatever, right? So now we can cut the umbilical cord officially because they could sustain life without us. And how,
mm-hmm.
and that's why I think midlife gives this opportunity to be like, okay, our other human beings that we created are now able to sustain life without us. How do we come back home to
Yeah,
ourselves? And how do we come back home so we can feel whole in this state of external craziness? And we are all connected. And I think that when we're aware and conscious of that connectivity of it all,
yeah,
it makes us feel more alive and healthy and well,
yeah,
because we're tapped into this source that is greater than ourselves.
Yeah.
So I think I'm going to end there with that, and really hope that, my hope is,
Mhm.
for people who listen, is that um, there's not just one way. There is opportunities, there are practitioners, health practitioners. I think you're a practitioner of healer, a healer in way. I don't like to call ourselves healers, because I don't know, I don't think I heal anybody. I think people heal themselves, but
Well, you hold space
we hold
for
space.
people to heal
Same thing
themselves.
as you, right? Like, that's why we are
Mhm.
connected in this, is because for me
Yeah.
and you, we are trying, and giving the opportunity, for women, and hold space that they can find their way back home into this life of feeling more at ease and feeling more balanced. Because it is, when you feel more balanced, when your hormones are more balanced, when the communication between your mind and your body is more balanced, when your sleep is more balanced, you feel a sense of ease. And with that sense of ease, you can have that stillness to really, really sit with you. And
Yeah.
that's my definition of how spirit can play into healthcare. So I hope that our conversations continue, because to me,
Mhm.
it helps me heal. I
Yeah.
really think talking to you and gives me the environment to be like, okay, what is my purpose? What do I really want to do? What am I really
Yeah.
trying to do in my professional life? What am I trying to do in my midlife? I feel like just trying to be here and now, and learn and give love, and give
Yeah.
space so people can find their way home.
Yeah. Yeah. And I would say, for those out there who don't have a spiritual practice or tools, um, gosh, this is so hard I so don't want to be preachy about this, so it's like, how does one talk about it? But I want to point out that it could be that this feeling of dissatisfaction inside, this angst, this feeling like something is not right, like this is not how I'm meant to live. This is not enough for me. Could that be your spirit calling for you to communicate? And if so, where can you find help around that? You know, a path that can show you how to come in contact. And for those of you who have been on a path, can this be a time in your life where you up your practice so that you can really stay true to yourself inside and really honor that place inside of you that wishes to be kind of expressed and experienced in the world, in your life?
Hmm.
All
Hmm. Thank
righty, my
you.
dearie.
Thank
Thank you
you.
so much.
Thank
To be
you.
continued somehow, sometime.
Thank you.